Okay, so here's a graphic organizer of all the different forms of a quadratic formula that we can do. So we can have a general form, which is given here, factored form, which we'll figure out, and then on the bottom we have vertex form, and then the graph. So we're going to do this. I'm going to do this one with you in case you need guidance, and then there'll be a second one you're going to do on your own. So we have general form, and it wants to know what features can we identify just from the general form. So first of all, general form, can we identify whether the parabola opens up or down? And the answer, yes. And the reason why, hopefully you remember this, is the a value, which is always located in front of the x squared, tells us the direction of opening. If it's positive, it opens up, and if it's negative, it opens down. Okay, then it asks if we can find the location of the vertex. From looking at this form, you can't find the location of the vertex directly. However, we do have a formula, x equals negative b over 2a, to help us find the x value of the vertex, and then we can solve for the y. So although we don't directly have it, the location of the vertex can be found by formulas. Okay, and we're going to actually do that to graph this. So this is kind of a half and half. You can kind of say yes or no. The zeros, can we find the zeros from general form? No. Can we find the y-intercept? Well, definitely directly we can find the y-intercept, because hopefully you remember C is the y-intercept. So what we're going to do next is graph this. Even though it's not the order it's in, it's going to be more helpful in a minute for some of the other stuff we're going to do. So we're going to finish up our vertex form, defining our vertex so we can graph this. So negative b is negative 2 over 2 times a, which is 1, would give me negative 1. So the x value of the vertex is negative 1. If we plug that back into the formula, we'd have negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 minus 3. 1 minus 2 minus 3 is negative 4. So now we're going to graph using that information. So we're going to go to negative. We're going to put our axis of symmetry at negative 1. We're going to go to negative 4 and put our point. So again, our axis of symmetry, our vertex, and then we're going to put our y-intercept because we have that. So C is negative 3, and we'll reflect that. And then we should be able to find some more points on our graph because we know this follows, because A is 1, the normal pattern of 1, 3, 5. So we go up 1 over 1, up 3 over 1, and then up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1. And if we reflect those points, then we have our parabola. So now that we have our parabola driven, we can now find the factored form. So up here in the corner, ask for our factored form in the equation. So we have y equals a, which we know is 1, so we can write the 1 or you don't have to. And then we need the zeros to do factored form. So if we go to factored form, we're going to find our zeros. The first zero is at negative 3. Remember, anything in parentheses, the sign changes. So it'd be x plus 3. And the second zero is at positive 1, so x minus 1. Okay, so those are the equation in factored form. From that equation, what can we identify? Can we identify whether it opens up or down? Yes, because the a value tells us that. Can we find the location of the vertex? Not directly. Okay, can we find the zeros? Yes. Factored form tells us the zeros. Can we find the y-intercept? Not directly. Okay, and then we're going to go to the equation in vertex form. To write the equation in vertex form, y equals a, which is 1, and then x minus, what is the x value of the vertex? It's negative 1, so it's going to become plus 1 squared, and then it goes down 4, so minus 4. The vertex is negative 1, negative 4. So now we're in vertex form. What can we find? Can we find whether it opens up or down? Yes, because a is still there. Can we find the vertex? Definitely from vertex form. It's negative 1, negative 4. Can we find the zeros? Not directly. Can we find the y-intercept? Not directly. So depending on what we're looking for, there are different forms. And depending on what form we're given, we're going to have different information. However, no matter what form you are in, you should be able to create the graph. And no matter what form you want, you should be able to get it from the graph. So these are interchangeable. Can you make the graph first and get your form? Can you get your form and then make your graph? Okay. So make sure you really understand all forms of a quadratic equation. And you're going to do a similar problem. This equation is going to start differently. This whole process again with a different graphic organizer.